Welcome to episode 96 of Drew's Sports Crew here on this Monday night. Myself, Drew Skyberg, bringing you the news in that sports world and the Wisconsin sports world as it is here on Drew's Sports Crew. But we got a lot to talk about here. It's that usual schedule. Unfortunately, Packer football has come to an end this season, though, so that'll be changing up here, right? The 2022 to 2023 season for the Packers has wrapped up after yesterday's game. I was in attendance at that one in Lambeau last night. Unfortunate showing again for the Packers. We'll touch on that more later in the episode, but you know the drill. Go through those announcements right away here on episode 96 at Drew's Sports Crew. So where you'll find that Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And I mentioned the TikTok with that at Drew's Sports Crew YouTube Shorts. You'll see those coming up on YouTube. And it's under at Drew's Sports Crew, but also Drew's Sports Crew. It'll come up on that. But also Journey to Million has a TikTok, right? That is out and that is live. I'll talk more about that tomorrow night. 4 o'clock is where you'll find Jerry Million live here. But that announcement was made. It'll be in the link tree below. And yeah, you can see at J2M Football is where you'll find that. But I'll also add it on top of the, up here. Up here. I'll add it. I did a thumbs up at first. It was like, okay. Well, for you guys listening to the audio, you didn't see it, but that's where you'll find the socials as always. But yeah, we'll get it going here. Bucks will be playing at Madison Square Garden in 25-ish minutes. I know the game says 6:30, but those games don't start on time. But let's get going here. We'll start in the world of girls basketball for the Eastern Wisconsin Conference. We had a lot of non-con games. We had some conference stuff going on. It was a little bit of everything this past week. We'll first start in girls, and I'll give you that stats and standings update here. And we're going to start in the standings for the Eastern Wisconsin Conference for girls basketball. On top of the conference is the Brilliant Lions for boys and girls, but here girls 6-0 in conference, 10-1 overall. New Holstein's 5-2 in conference, 8-5 overall. Kiel is 4-2 in conference, 7-6 overall. Chilton 4-2 in conference, 8-3 overall. Valders 3-4 in conference, 7-7 overall. Sheboygan Falls 2-4 in conference, 7-5 overall. Roncalli 1-5 in conference, 3-10 overall. And Two Rivers, they rounded out 0-6 in conference, 2-12 overall. On the stats side, Two Rivers Raider Allison Kakis leads the way 22.0. So 22 points a game. She leads the conference. Grace Shizzle is in second, 21.4. A fellow member of that New Holstein team, Peyton Grenzer, averaging 15.2. Adeline Hurl is averaging 15.2 as well. And then we have 3 people averaging 15.2 as Emma Edelman will join that group. On the rebound side, Peyton Grenzer leads the way from New Holstein, 13.8 for her. Aston Schwely, 12.9. And Allison Kakis rounds it out, 11.6. Alyssa Wolfall of New Holstein leads in assists, 4.5 for her. Olivia Shue, 4.2. And then Allison Kakis, 4.1. So right now, Allison, Conference Player of the Year will be interesting, right? Allison Kakis averaging 22, 12, and 4. But right now, Two Rivers 0-6 in conference. So I'm intrigued to see how that's going to be played upon, right? Because, it could just be Megan Schumann is, the conference, right? I mean, look what Brilliant's done. Of course, Grace Shizzle and Peyton Grenzer, both of them, what they've done. I think it's going to be interesting. I want to see how that race turns out. We're a little over halfway there for girls basketball. I'm just looking at the numbers. We're probably right once you get through those conference tournaments and the new year starts. I want conference tournaments, those like holiday tournaments. I feel like that's kind of the halfway point for girls basketball. So I'd imagine right now we're looking a little over halfway. I'd say like 55-60% left here, or has already been completed. And yeah, but tomorrow night, I guess if we're looking at the slate, right, I'll get going here talking about the games. So we have a conference slate tomorrow night, which features right Brilliant and Two Rivers playing at Two Rivers. We have Kiel and Chilton. That's at Chilton. Sheboygan Falls at Roncalli. So like we have 3 conference games, and then we have Valders at Luxembourg Casco thrown in there. So interesting stuff. So New Holstein gets the night off, and in return they had a game Saturday. So in return, Valders wants to play a game. They have that non-con at Luxembourg Casco. However, Friday, we have a full slate of conference games. It's interesting how the schedule works this week with Valders and New Holstein each having no conference game on Tuesday, but Friday they got Sheboygan Falls at Chilton, Two Rivers at New Holstein. Valders is going to travel to Roncalli. And so you have the 4 games there. Brilliant and Kiel, again, I mentioned, should be good. We'll see. Hopefully Kiel makes it a game there. But otherwise, Valders, I believe, has already played Roncalli, and I think they've won. Saturday, we'll go to those games. We have some non-con on Saturday. We have 2 games. Chilton's going to travel to Lomira, and then Kiel's going to go to North Fond du Lac. So 2 non-con games where both EWC opponents will be traveling. And then next week, I'll touch on those more non-con games next week. It seems like we got a little break here from conference action. So I say a little break, a pretty good break. Next time conference action will resume is Thursday, January 19th. So keep that in mind. We'll have some good non-con ones though coming up. I'll touch on those episode 97 next week, but that's your girls basketball recap. We're going to head over to the boys side here and touch on what is going on there. And we had a lot of non-con games this past week. Highlighting, and we also had some conference games, right? Friday night we had conference games where that was. I'll go through standings first, and then I'll go to those games. Won't get ahead of myself. I'll stick to that routine. The Eastern Wisconsin Conference standings for boys basketball features Brilliant on top here, as well as girls basketball, and Brilliant 6-0 in conference, 12-0 overall. Kiel is in second place here, 5-1 in conference, 9-1 overall. Valders is 4-2 in conference, 7-4 overall. Two Rivers is 3-3 in conference, 7-5 overall. Roncalli's 3-3 as well in conference, 4-7 overall. New Holstein 2-4 in conference, 2-11 overall. Sheboygan Falls 1-5 in conference, 1-9 overall. Chilton 0-6 in conference, 2-9 overall. Your stat leaders. Jeremy Lawrence is atop the conference in scoring 20 a game for him. Cole Hovey with 18.7. Brady Richards of Two Rivers, 18.2. Pierce Arden, 17.6. And Max Miller, 13.7. On the rebound side, you guys think Grant Munn's on top there, 12.4 a game. Jeremy Lawrence right behind him, 11.1. Cole Hovey from Valders, 8.8 for him. On the assist side, Parker Brown, 6.7 assists per game. Pierce Arns, 4.3. Will Fearbringer, 4.1. Congrats to Pierce Arns, hitting 1,000 points as well. Had to highlight that. And I mentioned Max Miller and Brady Richards. I believe Brady Richards was a receiver for the Two Rivers Chilton, the high school football halftime at Lambeau. I'll talk about that in a sec. Max Miller was the quarterback for Chilton. So on the stand, I mentioned standings. There's your stats. On the schedule side, we'll talk last Friday. We had some conference games. In these conference games, we had Brilliant, who traveled to Roncalli, and Brilliant gets the job done there at that one. 57-29 was the final. I was actually in attendance at that one at the Jet Hangar in Roncalli, or at Roncalli High School. Chilton, they traveled to Kiel. Kiel took care of business there, won by 18. 64-46. Two Rivers, they beat Sheboygan Falls at Sheboygan Falls 58-46. And then Valders beat New Holstein by 21 at New Holstein, 81-60. We had two non-con games, or not two. We had four non-con games on Saturday. We had Brillion, who beat Hilbert by 41, 79-38. We had Wrightstown, who beat Roncalli 70-35. Luxembourg Casco beat Sheboygan Falls 69-22. And then we had Howard's Grove beat New Holstein 53-31. So none of these games were close. The closest one, again, was a 22-point victory for Howard's Grove. So we do have a game tonight, in 34 minutes ish. So I don't think you'll be able to make it if you're listening now, but we have Green Bay NEW Lutheran. They're traveling to Two Rivers at Two Rivers. 7 o'clock is that one. We got some more conference games or non-con games tomorrow night, where we got Kewanee traveling to Valders. That should be a good one at Valders High School. Shiocton's going to travel to Brillion. Kewaskum's traveling to Kiel. And those are your games Tuesday. Note that Kewaskum Kiel game 7:15 tip, not 7. Thursday, we got some games. We have Chilton Two Rivers. And then we have conference games. So, yeah, Chilton's traveling to Two Rivers. Should be a competitive game. Kiel Roncalli. New Holstein Brillion. Sheboygan Falls Valders. Yeah, Chilton Two Rivers is going to be your most competitive game on Thursday night. I do know Sheboygan Falls Valders. That one Thursday's alumni pep for Valders on that one. So that game, it's alumni night, they call it. So those are your games Thursday. Then we have Saturday games. We have Sheboygan Falls traveling to Sheboygan Lutheran, a little rivalry in town. And then we know how Roncalli likes to schedule tough non-con games. They got Kingdom Prep Lutheran coming up to Roncalli. That game's at 7. That's Sheboygan Falls, Sheboygan Lutheran's at 3. And that'll wrap it up for the stats there. I'll give you Kingdom Prep Lutheran. I'll give a little scout right now. So that team actually, I mentioned how they schedule, some tough non-con opponents. This Kingdom Prep Lutheran team so far this year has not been tough. They're 1-9. They are an independent. They are non-WIAA. So interesting. With being non-WIAA and independent. I don't know where they're based out of, but they do travel a lot, as many independent schools do. I'm just thinking the most notable, right, independent school has been, Milwaukee Academy of Science. I believe they're still independent. They are still independent, but they are D3. Kingdom Prep Lutheran is non-WIA, is what I saw. And, of course, we know Milwaukee Academy of Science is Division 3. They were D4 last year, so keep in mind they won't be matching up against Roncalli this year. But for in the same division as Roncalli. I mentioned Exeter State last year, but yeah, I mean, those are your games. Some more non-con sprinkled in there. I think non-con games are fun. Honestly, I think it's always good to face some other schools, because the beauty of how it works always is you'll play some schools that are in your sectional. You'll play them that are in your region maybe. So what happens is, come playoff time, you might be able to base something off of it, or you might be like, hey, my school played this school, and again, that doesn't work. But it's always good to see what schools have played what schools, to kind of gauge what's going on. What are their strengths, weaknesses, etc. I think that's always good to see. And that's just what makes basketball so much fun, right? At the high school level. So that's going to wrap it up here for the High School Talk with Sports.net. Thank you for all the information. And yeah, we'll touch on the Packer game. We'll tie some more EWC in there. I'll get to that that's what's next here. So transitioning over to the Green Bay Packer game, that, again, I was in attendance with Zach Roush from Journey to a Million. He was there as well. So we'll talk more tomorrow at 4 about the game with Jared. Right, he'll be talking about how the Colts lost and got a better draft pick. We'll be talking about this game, but it was a tough one to watch. I think what was tough for me mostly in this one was the missed opportunities. Honestly, when you get in the red zone, I especially start the game, you settle for field goals. That's just that might be like the worst part for me, as a football fan. It's just for like in basketball for me, and many can relate. It's like giving up those large runs, in the game. It's like, oh, bothers me. Or in baseball when manager tries to micromanage or overmanage the game. For me in football, it's fourth down calls, or like going for example, right? Packers are on their own 30-yard line, and they are or yeah, they basically, the wrong side of the field, and they go for it. It's a 4th and 1, but the beauty of it being a 4th and 1, it's like, okay, QB sneak, like, come on, that's what majority of the teams would do, or some sort of, concept involving, right, AJ Dillon getting the ball, or a handoff where maybe Mercedes Lewis gets, something creative like that I'm expecting. But when you try to do outside runs, or even that fake punt last week, it still gets me in Miami, or a few weeks, 2 weeks ago. It's trying to overthink it. It's, you need 1 yard and you do an outside play that gets, stuffed, and they get the ball, they get a field goal. 3-3 right there, and then Crosby tacks on a field goal, 6-3, and then Crosby gets another 9-3, and then we saw that Aaron Jones fumble, and the Lions were able to tack on 2 field goals in the first half, making 9-6. But I think it was frustrating, honestly. The most part was, that Crosby one hit it off, missing by a few inches was tough, but the mistakes too, right? What Quay Walker did, what was Rasul Douglas did, right? Many of you saw what happened, but it's, you're not think it's not thinking. And I know, right, Walker acknowledged on Twitter what happened or what was going through his mind, and it's just he knows it's inexcusable. And look, I think, if he didn't learn from Buffalo, right, what happened at Buffalo where he shoved an assistant coach of Buffalo and got ejected. I think this, he had to have learned now, right? That happened. I was like, oh, that's inexcusable. Happens again in a different scenario with a trainer. So I think he learned his. I hope he learned his lesson, right? And Rasul Douglas has had instances of personal fouls and whatnot this year, so hopefully that can get cleaned up for next year as well. But that's frustrating, right? Jamal Williams gets a touchdown, former Packer, 13-9, they go up. Alan Lazard gets on the board, and we were feeling good, 16-13. It's 21 degrees in Lambeau, and right, feeling fantastic. And then Jamal Williams gets that touchdown in the 4th. There's more that happened, right? An interception, long drive from Detroit. It was 13 plays. It was an 8-minute drive, and then Rodgers throws. Actually, one of the interceptions got called back, and then Rodgers throws the interception to seal the deal there on that last drive, and then it didn't seal the deal at first, but then Lions, right? Dan Campbell was they weren't maybe going. They were going to just end the game, right? They were going to stall. They wanted to stall the game. They could have kicked the field goal. They make it 23-16. Probably if they need to win, they would do that. But the approach here was knock the Packers out of the playoffs, and that's what they did. They were able to get their job done, and Detroit finishes ahead of Green Bay. So there you go. Packers actually give up the same amount of points they give up in 2021 to 2022. Both seasons they gave up 371 points. However, this year they only score 370. So I'll touch on the halftime show now, right? We had Chilton High School and Two Rivers High School doing the high school quarterback challenge finale. The Valders actually made it here one year. It was, shout out Bernie Van Den Heuvel. He was on it, or he brought his receivers down up to Lambeau and had that going. And Two Rivers and Chilton, again, Max Miller and Justin Klinkner were able to bring their receivers. So that was exciting to see, right? It's pretty cool. We see guys we were talking about each and every week here on the podcast, catching balls in Lambeau, and Two Rivers won. They actually didn't declare a winner there, so it was we were counting the passes, and right, Two Rivers had 2-1, and I saw Two Rivers later was declared the winner on Twitter, but The tiebreakers usually like yardage is what my understanding was, and you get 3. Basically, what this is for those who don't know is, I believe Two Rivers and Chilton during regular season game this year were invited up, and they faced another high school. So what you do is, it's quarterback and 2 receivers, or maybe 3 receivers, but you have 3 pass attempts each team does, and with it goes like it's a 2-minute thing. So Chilton starts. They have their receiver. Right, you run fly routes. So Chilton's receiver was running 30 yards downfield, and Max Miller hits him in stride, and they get like 30, 40 yards. That counts for 1 completion. Two Rivers answers right back, and if it's incomplete, it doesn't count, right? And it's who can get the most out of the 3. And tiebreaker, I think, is yardage. So a pretty quick thing that goes on there. But both those schools must have respectively won, during the regular season, which it still was. But the last home game, they bring them back. So here, they bring him back, and again, Two Rivers wins it. So exciting, and right, pass-heavy offense like Two Rivers. I mean, you expect, right? But credit Chilton, Two Rivers, both representing the EWC very well, and it's exciting to see, right? I mean, people around me, right? 76,000 people were there, and it's just great to represent the Eastern Wisconsin Conference. So again, shout out to both those schools, and yeah, congratulations to Two Rivers on winning. So you'll hear more Packers. Again, tomorrow we'll be talking, right, future coaching, defensive coordinator. Right, it sounds like Joe Barry's back, but we'll touch on it more tomorrow. I gotta go talk some Milwaukee Bucks basketball here, and right, they have a game coming up in a little bit here at the Garden in New York to face the Knicks. And they beat the Knicks earlier in the year at the Garden. That was Wednesday, November 30th. This season's flying by. Started October 20th, to keep in mind. So they have that game going on tonight. I highlighted the Bucks prediction challenge that's up on TikTok already. Again, if you've not seen it, it's up here. And again, we'll be adding there's the Journey to Million TikTok as well. I'll add that up there for tomorrow. But we have Wednesday. That's also in Atlanta. It's a tough schedule this week. And that's on ESPN Wednesday night. Miami then is this is crazy, right? It's a Thursday, Saturday games, but they're both at Miami, and you face the Heat twice. It's 6:30 on Thursday night, and then it's Saturday at noon on ABC. So it's it's not an ideal or a back-to-back. It's not really back-to-back with a day in between, but you face the opponent twice. They faced Washington last time twice. Miami's, although they've dealt with some injuries lately, or as of late, it's still Miami, a well-coached team, and they're still going to play, tough. It's so hard to win these back-to-backs in the regular season, sweep them in the NBA, and I'm thinking it's a split. I mean, that's usually the pretty standard thing we see, but that game again on ABC on Saturday, on ESPN on Wednesday, 6:30. So it sounds like Chris Middleton will potentially be back Thursday or Saturday, is what I'm hearing. I think I'm buying more into the Saturday than Thursday, just based on other reports. So I'd keep that in mind. Hopefully, Drew Holiday can get those minutes back up where it was before he was out, that few game stretch there. But it's good to get some of these guys back. We really want Chris Melton back, of course, and Giannis is going to have a big game in the Garden. You already know that's going to happen, so I'm all ready for that. And yeah, with the Bucks, we'll touch more on next week's schedule, next week's episode, right? But yeah, I mean, I want to keep the Bucks brief there. We're still kind of, we're like at the halfway point in the season. All-Star game's not really there. I'd like to do something. I'll be doing something for, either mid-season or like more like the 3/4 in the season kind of thing. Might be like near the end, talking more about playoff picture, whatnot, as the league in a whole. But that's kind of all I got here on the Eastern Wisconsin Conference on the NFL. And the Milwaukee Bucks. Brewer Talk will be starting up again soon here, right? When we saw the Wade Miley signing, we're actually seeing transactions happen. That's exciting for all you Brewer fans out there. That's what we're waiting on. Right? I mean, season's coming up close here. If you think about it, right? Football wrapping up very soon, in a month-ish. Playoffs starting up. So that's why, yeah, Jerry Million's going to be exciting. 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. tomorrow. TikTok at J2M Football for that. At Your Sports Crew for the main TikTok on the account here, the podcast. But I went through all the announcements already, and that's going to wrap it up here for myself, Drew Skyberg, here on this Monday night. Thank you all for listening to yet another episode of Drew's Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.